Welcome back to the Secret Passage podcast. It is I, your host, Dana Vespoli.
And this is Shannon.
And we are back to continue discussing JFK Jr., Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, and in this story, Lauren Bessette, and the tragic Kennedy curse / generational trauma. We left off in our last episode. We had gotten to the point where JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette and her sister, Lauren Bessette, died tragically in JFK Jr.'s Piper Saratoga on the way to Martha's Vineyard from New Jersey on July 16th, 1999.
Did we talk about how we would never fly in one of those planes last time?
We might have, but I'd like to reiterate that you could not pay me enough money to get into a fucking small fucking plane.
Yeah.
There's no fucking way.
No.
This
just happens too frequently.
You know that show, The Madison? It's this new show that's on. A lot of people are super into it. I started it. I watched the first episode. I really like Michelle Pfeiffer a lot, and Kurt Russell, and also Matthew Fox, whom I have not seen in anything since Lost.
Oh, wow. He's back.
But spoilers for anybody that wants to watch The Madison, although I feel like this particular bit has been spoiled already because a lot of people were complaining about it, about the fact that Kurt Russell and Matthew Fox die in the first episode. But the rest of the show, apparently the rest of the season, there's quite a bit. You see them each episode in flashback form. But I bring that up because...
Because if you fly in one of those airplanes, you'll die.
That's what happens. But it's very JFK Jr. coded because Matthew Fox is Kurt Russell's brother, and I want to say they're in Montana. I think they're in Montana. They're somewhere, and they are fishing and having a good old bonding time out in the wilderness. And Matthew Fox had he's a pilot, so he had flown them both to this spot, and then he looks up in the sky and he's like, it looks like, inclement weather's on its way, we should probably leave. And Kurt Russell's like, nah, I want to keep fishing. So they keep fishing, and eventually they fucking get on the plane and they start flying, and shit goes sideways. And Kurt Russell's like, what's happening? Blah, 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 blah. And Matthew Fox is like trying to do shit in the controls. And Kurt Russell's like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, bitch, you're the one who wanted to keep fishing. Like, I don't know what you thought was going to fucking happen. There's just some stuff where I'm just like, why do people do that? Like, that looks dangerous. No, we're fine. You know what it makes me think of? There's that joke about, like, white people in horror movies.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's like white people in movies. And this guy's like, shit, my phone is about to die. Oh, well, we better hurry up and get up that mountain before the storm hits. Like, that's right.
Right.
It's like white people. The other one is hot air balloons.
Oh, God. That I was just about to say when you mentioned this. I'm like, hot air balloons. Also, like, boats. Like sailboats. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just it's like breaking through to a new frontier or something, like space travel or going in a submarine. Never. I mean, I appreciate that other people do it to explore those worlds for me, but I would never, ever agree to do that. Oh, like, what's it called? Remember the submarine or the little thing that went down to the bottom of the ocean? What was it called? And we didn't know if it exploded or not. And it was like 12 people on it.
Oh, it's the submersible. It's a submersible, right? This just happened. And the guy that he had a very like waspy name. The one that,
yes,
the Titanic submersible. Titan submersible.
Titan submersible. Oh my God. The controller for that thing was like a little
Sony PlayStation.
Oh my God.
You're sitting there. There's a bucket if you got to take a shit, and the other people are going to watch you. Yeah.
Never. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need that much excitement in my life, but I feel like it's the same personality profile as somebody who would get their pilot's license and fly a tiny plane.
Yeah. I can get that. Listen, coffee in the morning, driving my kids to school and hoping I don't have to take a crap, that is about as much risk as I want to take. Like I'm at that point in my life. I'm like, ooh, I'm playing with fire.
No, backing out of my driveway, that's enough anxiety for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like I live in a very busy neighborhood with no speed bumps and crazy drivers, and every time I pull out, I like brace myself to get T-boned. And that's, that's about as much risk as I'm willing to take.
Yeah. When I was reading these books and doing more research on JFK Jr., I kept thinking like the man was beautiful. Nothing physically wrong with that guy. He was an
God, so
incredibly
attractive.
handsome. Could not take a bad picture. Like every picture looked like it was from like an editorial spread in a magazine with him like walking shirtless in his shorts and playing frisbee with his hair. And
He has like the best posture. He's like majestic.
yeah, he was absolutely like the best ass physical qualities of both of his parents. But man, he loved adventure, kayaking, climbing mountains, scuba diving. I could have never dated that guy
Oh.
because he was very like demanding.
Mm.
Like Christina Haig, his girlfriend, apparently in some of the stuff that I read, he'd be like, no, 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 we have to go kayaking. We have to do this. We have to do that. And she was just so sprung. She's like, okay, and then nearly died a couple times.
Oh.
Oh, and then I kept saying Katie Miller, but yes, it was Julie Baker. Julie
Ah.
Baker was the girl that he was involved with, had dated briefly, but they stayed friends. I kept
Mm-hmm.
thinking her name was Katie Miller. In the last episode, it was Julie Baker. She looked eerily like Jackie Kennedy. You can do with that what you will. That JFK Jr. tended to be attracted to women that resembled his mother in some way, shape, or form. Christina Haig and Julie Baker, the most, I think,
Mm-hmm.
like physical characteristics with like the dark hair and the striking eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carolyn Bessette, I think, just with her style and her vibe, was
Mm-hmm.
very kind of Jackie Kennedy, incredibly minimalist style.
New York, fashionable. Yeah, she was
Yes.
like total New York minimalist 90s icon.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to the fateful day of July 16th, 1999. So couple things that I'm find really super irritating is how in a lot of, and there's been a course correction since then, I think now that we're here in 2026,
Mm-hmm.
this perception of Carolyn as being so bitchy and self-involved that she's been blamed for the accident,
That's so stupid.
that she was
Oh, she was
holding up,
late?
that she was late, that she forced the manicurist to do her toenails, her pedicure, like switch out the color 3 different times, that she was like sort of dragging her feet shopping for a dress for the wedding. They were supposed to drop Carolyn's sister Lauren off in Martha's Vineyard and then continue on to Hyannisport for John's cousin Rory's wedding. And so Carolyn was kind of waiting till the last minute to do things, and then was apparently just very bitchy and self-involved and didn't care and all that. JFK Jr. and Lauren were late also. I mean, there was a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, Carolyn didn't show up much later. I mean, they weren't even really ready to go, but at the point that she arrived, they were setting things up.
What's that all about? The need to blame her.
Because JFK Jr. is America's son and
Right.
America's prince. And I think also there's a misogynistic aspect. I think a lot of people, you were never going to win being JFK Jr.'s wife. You were never going to win. You were never going to be good enough. It's all, you can almost think of America as being like the insufferable mother-in-law. Like you're never going to measure up to your little
Yes.
boy. And so
That's so awful. It's
I
so the
think, yeah,
opposite of like Princess Diana, you know?
yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Well, Princess Diana, I mean, she was very warm.
Yeah.
She was in the public eye a lot longer. I remember watching her wedding. I remember
Me
watching the wedding on
too.
TV and thinking, she was the every woman because she was just a regular young woman
A
who married a
teacher.
prince. She
Mhm.
was all of us, that
Yes.
dreamed of being a princess. Whereas Carolyn was, she never gave an interview. Like there are like 3 occasions when you can actually hear the sound of her voice. Like I
Wow.
went and I looked on YouTube because I was
Yeah.
like, is there an interview with Carolyn? No. So here she is in photos, this ice blonde, very tall, very slender, looking distrustfully at the camera, and everyone's, perception becomes, oh, she's a bitch. Okay.
Right.
Oh, she won't talk to she's too good for us, that
Yeah,
kind of
she
thing.
won't give us what we want either. Yeah.
And so I think that is where that comes in. Diana was incredibly vulnerable. I mean, she was very vocal about her mental health issues. Like gave interviews discussing that. So
Mhm.
she normalized conversation, or she helped to normalize conversation around mental health struggles. She was one of few people during the AIDS epidemic to actually hug and touch. She made a
Mm.
point to be seen like touching people with AIDS.
Wow.
She was almost seen as a saint.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so with Carolyn, just unfortunately, she wasn't in the public eye for that long.
Yeah.
So who knows what could have happened? I mean, there's been a lot of discussion that to people that knew her, that she trusted, she was very warm, very funny,
Mm.
incredibly generous. Uh, I remember reading that she would give really generous tips to servers and restaurants and then say, "Hey, I remember what it was like when I was in school and working in the service industry," so she would leave these tips. She was very, very generous, but understandably, it's a weird thing to go from being just this person that can walk down the street without anybody looking at you to then suddenly just being mobbed and then being
Ugh.
yelled at and people being very cruel.
Yeah, I respect that. I mean, I think it's really like if it's not your style, it's not your style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I admire that in
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, she
Mhm.
wasn't she wasn't mean. I
Mhm.
also think a lot of people were like, "Well, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen?" And there's a little bit of like, I get that. I get like, did you think that somehow you were going to escape the media?
Mhm.
Marrying the world's most eligible bachelor, marrying the sexiest man alive, marrying a guy who's actually incredibly gracious to the press and will
Mhm.
always stop and chat.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
there's this expectation that you're gonna carry that right along with him because you chose to marry him. And I think she understood that would probably likely happen at first. I think she was hoping it would die down.
Mhm.
She was hoping people would lose interest and go, well, he's married off now. Let's go look at this kid Brad Pitt. He's pretty hot. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
But I don't blame her. I mean, shit, when a guy that you're in love with that's super duper hot, that seems perfect, and he likes you back, and
God,
then he wants to marry you,
it's terrifying.
I think that there is a bit of like, you're in over your head, like
Yes.
you want to believe it's going to work out. I am not going to begrudge her that. I've been there. I mean, I look back and I'm one relationship in particular where I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so great. We'll figure it out. It'll work out. It'll work
Yeah.
out. I'll
Yeah.
bend over backwards for him, you
Uh-huh.
know, and then you're in and you
Yeah.
want it to work. And
Yes.
and you find yourself kind of going, okay, there's all these awful, shitty things, but when it's just me and him, it's like there's no like
Mhm.
he makes me feel like the center of the universe or whatever.
It's so compelling. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But they were struggling at the end there. So
Mm.
like just prior to this plane crash, they were struggling quite a bit. And um, apparently Carolyn was self-medicating with a lot of cocaine,
Oh,
which will make you erratic and paranoid. So I think
yeah.
that if there's any kind of credence to any bitchiness or that there are some people that didn't, she would go into the George offices of George magazine, and some people thought that she was really annoying because she would kind of insert herself into that world. But I think there's an argument to be made that her husband wanted her input because she had a lot of experience with publicity working at Calvin Klein. And I read in her biography that she was very generous to the staff there. And
Mhm.
her big thing was just she'd get frustrated with John because he would give a little he would give too much of himself to too many people, and he would
Oh,
overextend himself,
uh-huh.
and it would frustrate her, and she would see him as being taken advantage of. And so it seems as though there was a bit of a protective streak in her to want to make sure that he wasn't doing that, because it probably also took time away from her
Of
and time
course.
away
Yeah.
from home and all of that. But
Mhm.
she was self-medicating. They weren't living together there at the end. He was staying at the Stanhope Hotel,
Mm.
which apparently his last night there, his good friend saw him go in and meet up with Julie Baker, his ex-girlfriend, who was waiting at the hotel
Oh,
for him. And
platonic,
that,
I'm sure.
well, that
No.
was the claim.
Uh-huh.
That was the claim. The claim was that Carolyn knew that he stayed friends with her and she was fine with it. That could very well be true. It is kind of, I don't know.
Mhm. Interesting timing and location.
Yeah, but who knows? Who knows? Because also there was some talk that Carolyn was not faithful, and then other talk saying like there's no evidence. There's no evidence that either of them cheated with other people. Would it be the strangest thing of in the world? No. Would that mean that they didn't love each other anymore? No. People do fucked up shit all the
Yeah.
time, and they
Yep.
weather storms. Infidelity wouldn't be crazy on his part. I mean, he would have relationships overlap, which, let's be honest, that is infidelity. If you're,
Mhm.
and I mean, unless you're, well, I mean, for Daryl Hannah, I think she thought they were in a relationship when he started seeing Carolyn. I'm not really sure, but we're going to get into possibly how and why John Jr. was the way he was, why his father was the way he was, why his uncle was the way he was, and
Mhm.
all of that. But just before we get into that, let's talk about the fact that this plane crash was totally preventable.
Mm.
There was a world in which all of them could have safely made their way to Martha's Vineyard and onto Hyannisport without fucking dying.
That's
There's a
sad.
world that could have happened had certain things been put into place. Number one, he didn't need to fly that day. He said that he was going to go because he was late. He was like, we are late as it is. There was another pilot that was like, yo, I wouldn't fly if I were you. I just landed. It's getting bad out there with like cloud cover, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
The wedding wasn't happening that evening. They didn't have to leave that night, but
Mm.
JFK Jr. insisted. He was flying with a foot that he had just had surgery on. He had just gotten his cast off, so his foot wasn't in the best shape. You need your feet to work when you're flying. Apparently, this is in Maureen Callahan's book, Ask Not, but she says, and she did a lot of research for her book. So you know, you can dispute this if you want, but she had it on authority that he was on Vicodin for bone pain. He was on ADHD medication. He was on thyroid medication. So he was
Wow.
he had medication in his system.
Mm-hmm.
And the NTSB, the National Transportation and Safety Board, and this is all available online, but they found him and him alone responsible for the crash. He flew without a flight plan. He opted not to submit a flight plan. He opted not to have his communication on in his plane
Oy.
with air traffic control. So air traffic control could not reach him. He could not reach air traffic control. He had the communication off. He nearly crashed into a commercial airliner that was beginning its descent into Kennedy International Airport. So it was making its approach. I'm sorry, it was approaching Kennedy International Airport. Yeah. So there was a flight instructor that offered, "Hey, I'll fly with you." "Nah, I'm good." It's JFK Jr.'s like, "I got it." Rather than flying over land, right, where you can see lights. So even though it was starting, he was not rated for instruments. He did not know how to use instruments on his plane, right?
Oh, so reckless.
He could only fly with using his eyes, like landmarks, lights, things like that on the ground. So he didn't have his instrument
He
rated.
could
He did.
only fly using his eyes.
Yes, he could only use his eyes. And then he made the choice to fly over water.
That's so reckless. It's
So
really
there,
awful.
even with the haze and everything, there's still the chance, had he flown over land, that he could have seen. That would have helped with, by all accounts, they believe he crashed because of spatial disorientation. And so every choice he made, and Maureen Callahan thinks that, for those of you who don't know, Maureen Callahan, she's an author. She has her show The Nerve on YouTube. She thinks that there's a very likely possibility that this was essentially a murder-suicide. I can see how you could come to that conclusion based on the fact that at every turn he made a choice that just made no fucking sense at all.
Not if you care about living.
Right. I don't, but he doesn't strike me as somebody that would be like, "Fuck it, I'm going to take Carolyn and her sister out with me." Like,
Right.
I think he thought he would survive. And I think that everything up to that point in his life, he'd always been taken care of. Again, this is a guy who, as a little boy, if he fell down, Secret Service was there to pick him back up again.
Yeah.
Everything was handled for him. Did he deserve to go to Brown? Not really. No one else would have gotten into Brown having flunked a year of high school.
Yeah.
You know?
Always had a net.
The Kennedys were always going to take care of you. To the point where he even made a joke to Carolyn, apparently, that when he was, I guess there was a time he got pulled over in Massachusetts and rolls down the window of his car and fucking pot smoke is wafting out. And the cop was so starstruck that he just let JFK Jr. off without a warning, with just a warning. And so John sort of joked to Carolyn that, like, "Oh, there's an unwritten rule in Massachusetts that if you're a Kennedy, you can get away with anything." And I think that, first of all, that's true.
Yeah.
Right? That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No lies told. But just ask Uncle Teddy. Just ask Uncle Teddy about Chappaquiddick, which we'll discuss here in a second. But I think that he had always eluded death. He'd always escaped death. He did it in the kayak with Christina Haig when they should have died. And his behavior afterwards, like, she was shaking, terrified, like we could have died. And he's like almost aroused by the fact that they had escaped death, right? Scuba diving. He would just do these very crazy things, like tantamount to playing chicken. all the time, and he was always okay. And I think in this instant, I don't think it was that he was set out to die, because
Mm-mm.
again, I don't think he would. This is going to sound weird based on everything I've said, but I don't think he was an asshole.
No, he felt invincible or something.
And I think that no one had died with him, and I think he thought that he was just like in every other situation. It might be scary, it might be bumpy, it might be rocky, but they're going to land just fine because he always got away with everything.
Mm.
And in this situation, he didn't. That plane nosedived at like 120 miles per hour into the ocean. And you saw the search and recovery guy
Yeah.
that was interviewed on that podcast was saying that like the rover camera things like showed that the plane was destroyed at the bottom of the ocean. JFK Jr. was found in half, basically. His
Ugh.
face had smashed into the controls. They never found the lower half of his body. Carolyn, and so the way that they were positioned in the plane, you had, first of all, that fucking stupid show, Love Story, was
Oh, yeah.
so stupid. It showed Carolyn super calm, getting like going into the front of the cockpit. Also, like it's like you hear that beep 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 happening in the plane, and JFK Jr. is just like, I'm so befuddled. What's happening? And then Carolyn's so calm. She's like, "Honey, are you okay?" He's like, everything's fine. And she gets out of her seat and she goes and she sits next to him and she's like, just breathe.
Oh my
Just breathe.
God.
There is no way
No.
that is how it went down.
Especially if Coke was involved.
If she was high. She was afraid to fly with him. Always
Yeah.
afraid. She would fly commercial most of the time, or only fly with him if he had a flight instructor flying with them.
Horrifying. It makes me think about if you're born into a family where your father just gets wiped out by a bullet, like out of nowhere, and then your uncle, same thing. It sort of feels like a counterphobic response, to like just how little control we have over anything. So when people kind of do the things like daredevil things that he does, sometimes it could be like because they have a high threshold for, they need a lot of stimulation. But I wonder about like a counterphobic response, right? Like to death or to that kind of that you can't predict when that's coming or how that's coming, and his like firsthand experience of that twice with his family members. So it made me think about that.
Right. So yeah, there is no way in hell that Carolyn calmly, lovingly, dutifully made her way to the front to sit next to her husband and tell him, "Hey, just breathe."
Yeah. No, she's probably like, I can't believe you. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
No, what the fuck has happened? You know,
yeah,
she's already just kind of like unnerved. I mean, there's no way to know what happened, but I would imagine her white knuckling it and screaming with her
terrified.
sister, and she was found sitting next to her sister. So, yeah, you've
Aw.
got it's a 6-seater. So you've got John in the front alone, with his like gear, and then behind him are 2 seats facing away from him, so, like, back to back with him,
Yeah.
and then in front of those seats are 2 seats facing forward. So it's almost like 4 seats kind of facing each other in the back seat so they can
Mhm.
chat or whatever. And Carolyn was found with next to her sister, and the seats were folded over,
Oh.
and
Ugh.
part of Carolyn's scalp with the hair attached was tangled up in the tubing for the scuba guys that had gone down. And I mean, it makes sense. It was days later that they were found.
Mhm.
And I know it's gruesome to get into the details of how they were discovered, but also it's just like that's life, right? Like that's what happens with this is what happens when you go like nosedive at 120 miles per hour into the ocean, which is like hitting concrete, and you're found on the bottom of the ocean floor where there's a lot of crustaceans around,
That's
and
so
your
sad.
body is in water. Like, I don't know, it's not that gross. I mean, it's like, this is what happens. It's the best in a way. It's like their bodies were part of the ocean and the earth
Yeah.
again.
And it probably happened fast. It probably was
Oh,
a
they
fast.
didn't. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, unfortunately, I read quite a bit of this online. In all likelihood, there's probably 30 seconds, which can feel like an eternity. 30 seconds is
Oof.
a long time, of awareness that you're about to die because
Ah,
you're heading down. But
jeez.
at the same time, it's I don't know what your mind does in that span of time if you black out, perhaps.
I've heard it's and like there's like this anesthetic thing that happens. I've heard that like our brains do us a favor and we feel peace and stuff like that. I hope this is true, but I've heard firsthand accounts that during a severe trauma or a near death experience, that there is a sense of like anesthetizing you, like you're not fully there in terms of pain and anxiety.
When you talk about like that anesthetizing mechanism
Yeah. Mhm.
that comes over, it makes me think a little bit of Alison Botha carrying
Yes.
her head, like holding her head up because she was practically decapitated, making her way to the road where she was saved. She described it as almost like an out of body experience of just
Mhm.
like forces almost outside of her, like leading her to where she needed to go, and cut off. I mean, otherwise, just the pain alone would have killed her, you would think,
Yeah.
except that she got herself there. I'm inclined to believe that.
Yeah. I've heard from people when I know somebody who was raped by a stranger, and she said it was so shocking. She experienced herself leaving her body, looking down and feeling nothing but compassion.
Wow.
Wild, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
so like a warm sort of this gives me a lot of peace. Because who know, I mean, we think about it, there are a million ways to die, and none of them are that comfortable. So I have fears all the time of like car crashes and what that would be like. And maybe that I think there's got to be evolutionary that's built into us so that we can survive when we're wounded or and hurt when we're trying to escape when we were prey.
Sure. And then also that some people do and some people don't, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in the case of John and Carolyn and Lauren, and poor Lauren, who has just been an aside in this whole thing because she was not a Kennedy and she was not in a relationship with JFK Jr., has just sort of like, so somebody described her as I forgot, like that she was unfortunately she was just like almost like a side character in all of this, like not even a side
Not a
character,
human. Yeah, an
just an
NPC.
accessory. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, an NPC, exactly. And this was somebody who was like a rising star at Morgan Stanley. She spoke fluent Mandarin. Like she was a fucking amazing, accomplished businesswoman, so smart
Wow.
and so loving. You know, she was a twin and
Oh,
incredibly invested in just wanting her sister to be okay. And the worst part is she volunteered to go along in the plane
ay, ay, ay.
to just, hey, you guys can drop me off at Martha's Vineyard. I want to be there as a support, you know?
This is my worst nightmare. This
Yeah.
is what I feel like it's a cautionary tale. I learned this lesson over and over and over again. When everything in me is like, just don't go, say no. And I go
Yeah.
anyway, and it's not a good decision. And I imagine, that's like I mean, I imagine they both of them didn't want to go on that plane.
Yeah. I think that Carolyn was so distracted by,
Mhm.
her relationship seemed to be falling apart. She probably was like, it'll be okay because Lauren's going to be there.
Yeah. Ugh.
And Lauren hadn't, I think Lauren got probably a taste of how John was operating machinery because she drove with him to the airport. He was a terrible driver. He would, if there was traffic, if like he would get up on the sidewalk and drive.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's insane. He would weave in and out of traffic all the time. He was awful. Just all there's so many red flags, a walking red flag. Like, you probably shouldn't fly with him. If this is how he drives, he probably doesn't. His good friend Steve Gillen was like, "Oh yeah, driving with John was horrible. Like, I was never gonna fucking get into a plane with him. Like no one wanted. Like, his good friends knew he was not somebody to drive with, or I mean, to fly with. If this is how he drives,
It's so selfish. I hate this. I hate it when people are selfish like that. And same thing with the kayaking, same thing with like, it's one thing to take yourself on a hell ride, but to bring along innocent, anxious people that have no control, it's just so, I don't know, thoughtless, not taking care of your cargo.
no. And I think that is, again, a consequence of growing up, being taken care of. Nothing bad ever really happens to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you go into things fully confident that everything's going to work out because it always has. And then he probably thought it was funny that people
Mm-hmm.
were scared, because he's
Mm-hmm.
like, "You're going to be fine." I think he believed that if you're with him, you're going to make it out okay, because he always makes it out okay.
Mm-mm.
There was a situation where he was scuba diving with a friend. They went down to look at this, whatever it is. I don't know.
Conch.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, starfish.
A treasure, a pirate's treasure.
They were looking for turtles.
It was, I don't know, a ship or something.
Oh,
I
okay.
might be remembering it wrong, but of what it was that they were looking for. But something happened with his friend's tank, and so he was giving, sharing his oxygen with his friend, and got him up to the surface. I wouldn't be surprised if for him that was probably like evidence that whatever was going to happen, everything was going to be okay, and he could take care of you. He would get you out of the situation, which is that challenging thing with someone like him. And we've all kind of known people like this that are self-centered, self-absorbed, but also insanely generous.
Mm-hmm.
He was known to be extremely generous with his time, with his money, with his energy. And that's the tough thing. It's funny, I rewatched Sex and the City because, again, the only reason why I watched this stupid fucking love story movie or series was because of just nostalgia for the 90s. And then that led me to rewatching Sex and the City. And a lot of people hate Carrie Bradshaw, the Sarah Jessica Parker's
Yeah.
character, because there's plenty of incidents in the series where she is absolutely self-absorbed, selfish, weird, narcissistic, seems to have like borderline traits. But at the same time, there are so many examples of her being incredibly kind,
Yeah.
incredibly loving, incredibly
Yes.
generous, because, we're all deeply flawed, and you've got to allow for some nuance. And I think that's true for JFK Jr. I don't think he was entirely an asshole, selfish, vain, all of these things. I think he was, to a degree. He knew he was hot. That's why he would take off his shirt if suddenly it seemed like, the press was not paying attention to him the way that he was used to. Then his shirt would come off.
Oh,
And he'd be
wow.
back in Central Park, because it's
Yeah.
probably a consistency thing of like, it feels weird because he grew
Right.
up with it. And
Totally.
yeah,
Like, I'm not the center of attention. Okay.
that's weird. Like, yeah, exactly. I need things to be back the way they were, because that's how I'm used to things always being. But then so after they passed, and after they were recovered, this is where we really see the machine of the Kennedy machine operating.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the horrible way that the Kennedy family treated Carolyn and Lauren's mother. They were horrible. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrote in his journal.
RFK Jr.?
RFK Jr. wrote.
Because they were cousins, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
RFK Jr. talked about, so Caroline was supposed to meet with Anne Freeman, the Bessette girl's mother, and discuss what to do moving forward with the deceased, with them. Caroline didn't bother to show up. She sent her husband, Ed Schlossberg, who was really awful to Carolyn. To Carolyn. And Anne Freeman knew this. Anne Freeman knew that Ed didn't like Carolyn, which was so weird.
I know why.
Makes you wonder. Like he probably because she wasn't ingratiating. Like he really tried to. I don't know. He really threw that Kennedy name around as like weight.
Status, yeah.
Exactly. So RFK Jr. writes in his journal about Ed Schlossberg that he bullied a shattered, grieving mother, is how RFK Jr. put it. So
they have his offspring.
Are you talking about
Ed's son?
Jack Schlossberg, that's a fucking dork.
What a piece of work.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But
now I can see why.
Yeah. And so Ed was like, he said something to the effect of like, JFK Jr. is ours and we plan on burying him at Brookline. You can do with Carolyn and Lauren, like whatever you want with them. Like, we don't care. Like, he basically was just like, we don't care. And in the end, all of them were cremated and spread out to sea to avoid a media circus, to try and keep things. All of this was so devastating. They didn't want a bunch of looky-loos and onlookers. So they went out to sea because you can't have a crowd of people out there. And they were spread out to sea. But Anne and the Bessette family after she lost 2 of her 3 daughters, there was no compassion, there was no grace, nothing. And how about it was their fucking their person's fault that this happened.
Right.
But she got a settlement. We don't know. Some people think it's 15 million, but it's never been, there's no official amount. But no one has heard anything from her about her Lisa Bessette. Like, no one knows anything about that. They went away. They did not want it. Yeah.
That's
moved on.
Awful.
It is really awful. And Ted Kennedy immediately like fucking pushed his way in, took over, made sure that any photos or videos of the crash of the bodies, that none of it was, it was destroyed. And he may or may not have been involved in like what was released, what kind of information was released with the autopsy. But basically the Kennedy machine went to work to manage this, in similar to how the Kennedy machine went to work to manage Ted Kennedy and the death of Mary Jo Kopechne in Chappaquiddick Island in I think it was like 1969. Let me look.
It was, yeah. So same thing. So coming in and hiding the evidence, potential evidence, and for protecting their reputation.
Yes, protecting the name. The name. If it seems to me that if you were a Kennedy, you were beholden to the name and the dynasty, all of that. Like your life was not your own. That's the impression I have. And this goes all the way back to Joe Kennedy, who was the patriarch, Joe Sr., the patriarch, who was a self-made, extremely wealthy, extremely involved in politics, who was a tyrant.
Ugh.
He's one of the worst paternal figures out of
Wow.
Some people think he's the worst father of a president.
Wow. So
he was
what
terrible.
was his deal? Like, was he mob ties, that kind of thing?
Yes. I mean, some people will say no, but yeah, he was a self-made, Irish Catholic boy who was bound and determined to make one of his sons president of the United States. That became like his life's ambition.
Wow.
That all of his boys would be in politics. And he was a notorious womanizer. Was having an affair with Gloria Swanson, was very brazen about it. Rose Kennedy, his wife, was kind of the long-suffering mother that was incredibly permissive. So you have like this father that was tyrannical. His daughter Rosemary had a very mild disability, and he got rid of her. He sent her off to be lobotomized and institutionalized because she wasn't perfect.
Oh my God.
And Jack Kennedy, JFK, had to sit back and watch his father cheat on his mother all the time. The kids knew. Watched his beloved sister get sent away because she wasn't perfect.
God, that's horrible. How old was she? Do you know?
She was in her teens, I think.
No.
Her young teens, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
Okay, but not a baby.
I can't remember. No, she wasn't an infant. She was old enough to be like, it was a thing where it became apparent that there was something that wasn't quite perfect about her. I'm not clear on what her issue was, but it wasn't anything crazy,
Yeah.
So Jack watched his older brother, Joe Jr., that was kind of the apple of Joe Sr.'s eye, and the person that he was picking to kind of like send on the path to the presidency. But Joe Jr. was killed in the war, in World War II. So then it went to the next in line, which was Jack. So you've got this kid who loses, and he was broken up about it. Jack had a real hard time with the fact that his sister was treated that way. He was very kind to her. It's weird that she outlived her siblings, but and then Kit Kennedy, the other daughter, died in a plane crash. So there was a lot of trauma that Jack and Bobby endured growing up. So it's really no wonder that then Jack goes on to become a womanizer, to be insensitive to Jackie Kennedy. And it's interesting because I think he had obsessive compulsive disorder. He had issues too, some health issues just with his back from also fighting, from being in the military. And he had back problems pretty much his whole life until he died.
Wow.
But he was medicated. I mean, they had a doctor that would come and sort of like handle his issues, give him stuff to help him relax, stuff to help him be up,
Wow. Jack Kennedy?
Yeah.
This is so fascinating. I knew none of this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so many people were medicated. You know what I mean? And this was back at a time when like speed was basically legal if you were trying to lose weight,
Oh, to live in those times.
I know, right? And but he was. It's interesting because it's not like he was. I don't think of him as a Lothario so much. I think he loved Jackie. By all accounts, he did. But again, when you're dealing with somebody who's got this lifelong untreated trauma, the way that he was, I think he respected her, and she classed him up, you know what I mean? Because she was incredibly well educated. Jackie Kennedy was incredibly well educated, incredibly classy, excellent taste. She was the perfect wife.
Yeah.
And Jack knew this, and I think he appreciated that about her, and he knew she was smart, but he seemed to have almost this OCD about him because the girls, young women that worked in the White House, the interns, the assistant, like all of these, the campaign girls, all of these young women, he would just sort of have his
Dog party.
sorry, but he would do this thing where like he would pick a girl and they kind of knew what was up. They had a sense, but some of them, like one was a virgin, and he was like sort of showing her around, gets her into a room, and then just immediately like
Jumps her bones.
jumps her bones. But it was weird because the way that she described it is that he would just like not even like fully undress, but just like kind of stick it in and go for like
Wow.
less than a minute, minute and a half maybe, and finish. It was like scratching an itch for him.
Wow.
He had to get it going, and that's why I say like it feels like obsessive compulsive disorder. I think he had severe
Interesting.
obsessive compulsive disorder, and it manifested in these different ways, like with sex. Like he wasn't having an emotional affair with anybody. It was weird, and Jackie knew this about him. First of all, Jackie knew about all of this, but she also understood that this was just he wouldn't even make eye contact. It was like just it was almost the way that some
Like masturbation with a human.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
Uh-huh.
It, and it sucked for these poor girls too because one of them was a virgin, and
That's
there was some blood, and he was like, "Oh, was this your first time?" And she's like, "Yes." And he's like, "Okay, we'll go clean up in the bathroom." And then like
whoa.
that was it. And this was just how he would do things.
And the girls would do it. She wanted to, right? It wasn't like
She
or
I
was
don't
she did it happen before she could even like
I
knew it was
think it was the shock and awe
mm-hmm.
of having someone that is this powerful, needs
Yeah.
something from you, or wants something from you. And this was during a time when I don't know, like I
Yeah.
mean, you were a young woman. What were you anyway? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you say no, what then?
Yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
risking your position or whatever. And so
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them, I mean, what's horrible is that they he I don't I mean, obviously, probably at the point that he died, probably didn't even like remember any of their names. You know what I mean? Like they were nothing really. And then for them, some of them, it was I mean, this was traumatic for them. And this is just again how this cycle of trauma just that's like finds its way down, or
Yeah.
it kind of projects out. I mean, you see the way it projected out, and it swallowed Carolyn, it swallowed Lauren by association, it swallowed Anne Freeman.
Yeah.
um
Oh,
and yeah, so it you see how this happens. And then with Ted Kennedy, Ted was like the little fat loser son of Joe Senior, that like no one cared about him. He was like the least valuable Kennedy, and an
yeah.
alcoholic.
Yeah, that he turned to booze. What did the dad do again?
Let me find out his
Okay.
exact career, his exact job. Let me find it. This is a good time for us to take a break. Okay, so returning back, Joe Kennedy. He was a businessman, an investor, philanthropist, also a politician. Oh yeah, he made a big fortune as a stock and commodity market investor.
Okay. So
Yeah.
he had a lot of money, businessman, potential ties to the mob.
Oh yeah, he made a lot of money also refinancing several Hollywood studios, which is probably how he met Gloria Swanson.
Mm.
And yeah, but it's just I was talking to you earlier because I'd watched unfortunately I can't get that time back from watching Emerald Fennell's reimagining of Wuthering Heights.
Mhm.
And again, I know that it was never supposed to be completely faithful, but there was so much, it could have, even without being faithful to the source material to the letter, there's a lot that I won't go there. But the thing that it made me do was remember Wuthering Heights, and one of the fascinating things that Emily Bronte did with that novel was show the consequences of generational trauma and how it filters down. And because we've been talking about the Kennedys, it reminded me of the Kennedys and how one person can wreak so much havoc on their offspring.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then Bobby, what's so interesting is Bobby's my favorite out of the Kennedys. And he was, he slept around, and then after his brother died, he was in a situation where he needed to rise to the occasion and show up for his niece and nephew, Caroline and John Jr. And he did. And he really loved Ethel. Like, he really loved her, and they had a lot of children. And then, of course, he died. He was assassinated. But you just see, and then you see Ted, and but it's also like the way they treat their wives, like
Yeah.
that.
That's the
Just
values they learned from their father.
exactly. You really fucking see it. You really see it. And then you see what happened, and just the young women that were just sort of cast aside and just treated like garbage, like Mary Jo Kopechne, who loved Bobby Kennedy. She was working on his campaign.
Oh.
That's how she was at that party. It was kind of like it was like a party for all the young women
people.
that had worked tirelessly on Bobby's campaign. And Mary Jo, it's still a mystery as to how she ended up in that car, because apparently her purse was still at the house where the party was. So I'm not sure how that happened, but she ended up in that car, and Ted, who was drunk, who should not have been driving, drove off a bridge and into the pond, and he got himself out and left her behind. And she struggled breathing through an air pocket for like a couple hours, they think.
No.
And
Really?
probably suffocated to death.
And so
Versus
she couldn't
drowned.
get out. She couldn't get out of just the car just wouldn't. This is horrible.
Yeah,
So she
the
was
car was upside down.
alive.
Yeah, she was alive. Had Ted gotten help, and he
Ugh.
had ample time. Had he gotten help, she would have survived. She would have
I
lived.
wonder if he like did something to her and then did that on purpose to just
No,
no. You don't think there was a sexual thing going on? Or?
I don't know if there was. I mean, everyone, and she was the only child of her parents.
Oh,
They oh my goodness, yeah. Another afterthought in the whole Kennedy, all the Kennedy shenanigans. These women are just sort of afterthoughts. Lauren was an afterthought. Carolyn was blamed for it or just seen as a shrew. Mary Jo Kopechne is like just a victim in this, not like a whole human. that had a future, that had I don't know if you're a fan of Joyce Carol Oates, but she wrote a short story about this called Black Water. She doesn't name them, but you know who it's about. But it's called Black Water, and the story ends with her just waiting, just knowing he's gone to get help. He's gone to get help. He'll be back. And she's just left.
That is horrible. That's so awful.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at all. So, and they can tell because of her lungs and because of like what, yeah. And so how did he get away with this? Kennedy Powers.
The Kennedy name.
Yeah.
I mean, he got in trouble. I mean, it destroyed. I mean, this is the reason why he never became president. A lot of people believe. So they take his account. He insisted that he tried to help her get out, but couldn't. and then he
Mm.
got out of the pond, and there's he
Yeah.
didn't,
I
he
yeah.
did what he could. He feels terrible. He just assumed that she had died, or so another version is that he blacked out, and as soon as he was able to, he reported it to the police, which was like 8 to 10 hours later.
Jeez.
But people point out that, like, when he got out of the pond, he passed by houses where the porch lights were on. He passed right by them. He passed by a payphone. He
He was trying to save his own skin,
Yeah,
basically.
and
Yeah.
I think that he probably thought that he might have panicked and just assumed she was dead.
Yeah. And even if she wasn't, he would have gotten in trouble if he would have reported it with all that alcohol in his system. So he was maybe covering.
Yeah, I mean, he was already somebody that was known for being a drunk, but I mean, there's a lot of things at play, like, his political aspirations, what he was hoping to accomplish. He already had a reputation for being a complete fuck up.
Mm.
And I wonder how much of this was also just anxiety and fear of his own father
Mhm.
and of his own family, and what it could mean. I seriously
Yeah.
wonder that. Already he had learned from his dad that, women are accessories. They're props. They're a means to an end. They're not whole, complete human beings. So
Right.
already there's that.
Disposable.
Yeah, and his own fears far outweighed any sense of right and wrong, because already right and wrong is just, it's mutable. That's the world he grew up in.
Yeah.
These things are mutable. There's a code that exists in the rest of the country, and then there's the Kennedy code, and the one you don't violate is the Kennedy code. The other stuff, they'll take care of that for you, and they
Yeah.
did.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of that, I think, operating, you see, with JFK Jr. in that. I don't know that he ever worried about what Carolyn wanted for herself.
Mhm.
I think it was like, well, now that we're married, you're beholden to the same Church of Kennedy that I
Mhm.
am.
Mm.
And so why don't you go do philanthropy? Why don't you go
Mm.
volunteer?
Mm.
Why don't you, we need to have kids now. We should
Mm.
be having children now. We should have children, because that's what you do. That's what you're supposed to do. Like Jackie Kennedy was kind of looked down on by the rest of the Kennedys, because she wasn't popping out babies left and right like Ethel was. Like, Ethel was
Wow.
producing a lot of kids. Rose produced a lot of children. And Jackie, there was miscarriage. Then she has Caroline. Then she has John Jr. Then Patrick dies,
Mhm.
as an infant, and she was always getting STDs from from Jack Kennedy, which probably didn't help the fact that she kept having these problems in her pregnancies.
Wow.
But there's a way, there is a sort of code, it seems,
Mm.
and I think that John Jr. being, you know I don't know, he was like elder Gen X, I guess, right?
Mhm. He's like 1960 something when he was born. Maybe he was like,
Yeah,
yeah, elder
1960.
gen. Oh,
He was
okay.
1960. I think
Mm.
that's when he was born. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, elder Gen X kind of. So I mean, he was. I mean, of course, they were politically progressive, but in terms of like the way they operated, I think that JFK Jr. Admired Carolyn for her ambitions and all of these things. She was college educated. She was very smart.
Mhm.
I think that all of that was going to need to take a back seat once you married into his family. That there was a certain, in the same way that he didn't want a career in politics, but he was made for a career in politics. And at the end of his life, he was gearing towards running for New York governor.
Mhm.
So initially, there was some interest in the Senate seat that Hillary Clinton took, and then he was like, "No, I'm going to go for governor."
Mhm.
And so it was that fate. I think he recognized that, and if that was going to be his fate, then his wife was going to have a similar fate, to his mother, to his aunt, you know.
God, they really behaved like a monarchy with the
They
etiquette
they they
and
really
the
did.
mhm.
But, so that's kind of like how I see this filtration of the Kennedy curse. That I think there was a curse, but I think that curse was generational trauma that
Yeah,
was never, ever, ever treated.
yeah.
And the only one that seemed to escape anything was Caroline, but
It lives
Caroline,
on in her son.
who
Just
lives on in the train wreck that is her child. I mean, what's funny is you see that though. You see that
I
permissiveness.
know.
You
Yeah,
see the permissiveness. What if you're a young man? I mean, I guess the Kennedy women, they didn't. I mean, Jackie died of cancer, and Ethel. I don't think Ethel still alive. I don't think so.
mm,
But you see, their tragedies were slightly different. It
mhm,
seems,
mhm.
but Caroline is just, I don't know. She very private person, but also beholden to that Kennedy. She was like, oh no, we got to run interference. We got to do damage control. Fuck the Bessettes.
Yeah,
Fuck their mother. Fuck the fact that my brother slash America's prince is responsible for this absolute mess.
yes.
Fuck it, we got to protect the name.
Yeah, circle the wagons.
Yeah, but I guess that's it. I guess that concludes our discussion of the Kennedy curse, Kennedy family generational trauma.
Yeah, the legacy of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this has been so, like, for me, like, eye-opening and interesting because I knew nothing about a lot of this. And yeah, you really see how money and wealth, the aspirations that you inherit from a parent or the expectations you inherit from a parent, how that shapes behavior. But it's interesting to me that no one broke from it. Like like no one rebelled. This is interesting to me. But
It's that well, I think JFK Jr. was attempting to,
uh-huh.
and was always like, I feel like he's like, you know, a career,
Yeah.
like he loved theater, he loved acting, he wanted to travel. He was sort of like just this, I think of like in the tarot cards, the fool, like
Yeah.
walking off the cliff, and that's kind of
Yeah.
him. Like just like
Yeah.
da da da, I'm gonna just fly this. I'm gonna fly this plane. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And I think what happened is you can almost picture like I picture it being like Joe Senior, just like and reeling him back in. Like,
Yeah.
nope, nope, nope,
It's your
nope.
fate.
And
Yeah.
Jackie's like, no, you're not going to be an actor. You're gonna go into politics. Like that's what you're gonna do. Like Jackie herself was beholden to the Kennedys. She saw it for what it was, but she just sort of accepted her fate, and that might be a generational thing.
Yeah.
I mean, again, she we have her to thank for seeing it as Camelot, seeing
Mm.
the Kennedys and JFK and his time in office as Camelot. She was quite brilliant with, I think, marketing and branding that, and creating this legacy. And then of course her son is going to carry on that legacy.
Yeah.
And that's what she wanted for him, was to keep this legacy, because I think her identity did become so tied into it. She couldn't extricate herself. And then at the end she tried. I mean, she became an editor, a book editor, and she did her own kind of thing, but I think that at her core, I think she really loved Jack. I think she
Mhm.
was destroyed and never the same after Jack died.
Mhm.
I think that could be her own. I mean, her father was he was also Jack Bouvier.
Oh. Mhm.
But she absolutely adored him. He loved her. But he was also this kind of shitty Lothario. And I
Mhm.
think that in some ways, growing up with that, there was the understanding that you take that on as a
Mhm.
woman.
Mhm.
And so, yeah,
Mm.
she imagined this. I think she always loved Jack till the day she died, and the expectation was that her son was going to carry that
Inherit the
on.
kingdom. Uh-huh. Mhm.
Yeah, because she had this dreamy dreamboat son who didn't. he didn't have the intellectual vigor of his father or his mother. I think he was a little bit like Ted that way. Like Ted was seen as intellectually lazy. Ted Kennedy was.
Mhm.
And I think you could say the same for JFK Jr. is intellectually lazy. I know that Maureen Callahan and all those people see him as a complete dolt and a total buffoon. I'm like, he just had really bad ADHD, but I
Mhm.
think he was sort of philosophical as in his own way. But
Mhm.
it's just he was going to come up with ideas, and he was going to need other people to organize them and implement them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah. So there you have it. I hope this was an okay episode. The Kennedys were on my mind because of that fucking series.
You're like an expert in the
Not
Kennedys.
really, dude. Dude, you can go so deep.
Uh-huh.
We don't have the time nor the inclination because man, you could fucking go so deep just in Joe alone, in Rose alone, in Ted alone. I didn't even get into RFK Jr. and what happened with his wife.
Oh, I'm so interested in that. Look at your little babies playing back there.
Oh, I
If you're
know.
listening, you can't see, but the dogs are being really cute right now.
Look at that. Look at the pooch. Oh, he loves
They're
his Bruno.
kissing.
There he is. Okay. All right. We'll see you next time, guys. Please, please follow us on Instagram if you're so inclined at Secret Passage Podcast. We are also on the Patreon. I forgot what the
I
link
think it's
is for
just
the.
Secret Passage podcast, but you have to do it through the Patreon
Yeah.
/ whatever. Mm-hmm.
Link in bio in
No
our
more
Instagram.
X account.
Yeah.
Because
Fuck
we're
X, dude.
streamlining. We're streamlining.
Yes. Yes, we are. We'll see you next time, friends.
Bye, friends. We love
Bye.
you.
We love you.
We think you're really pretty.